Oliver, Mr. Oliver's resource page. Mr. Oliver, Mr. Oliver, Mr. Oliver's resource page. Mr. Oliver, Mr. Oliver, Mr. Oliver's resource page. Oh, whoa, whoa. All right, you guys, Unit 5, Lesson 2 homework. The first thing that we would like to do is shade in 34 hundredths in this diagram. And I kind of feel like the easiest way to go about this is breaking it down by placement value and maybe representing our shading in different colors so we could really break it down and draw some correlations between the tenths place and the hundredths place, which will help us shade. Okay, so the first thing we realize is that we have a 3 in the tenths place and a 4 in the hundredths place. So we can go ahead and show that in our placement value chart. And let's go ahead and represent that 3 in our tenths place first. So for every tenth, I would represent that as far as like there are 10 columns in our diagram. So we can go ahead and represent 3/10 by coloring in 3 of those columns. I'll call them sticks for right now. So we'll color in 3. That'll be our 3/10. And now we can just color in 4 of the small boxes to represent the hundredths. Because every little cube itself is going to be 100. And every one of the, we'll call them sticks, will be represented as tenths. So now we got 3 sticks colored in 4 small boxes, and that represents 3/10 and 4 hundredths. All right, y'all, next problem. This time we are going to shade in 52 hundredths in the diagram, okay? So this time we're going to do it like we did last time. Let's break it down by placement value. Now you're going to have a 5 in the tenths place and a 2 in the hundredths place. So this time instead of so this time we're going to color in 5 of the sticks like I called them before, because that's our 5 in the tenths place. Then we're going to color in 2 of the small boxes, because those 2 represent 2 hundredths, and each one of the small little tiny squares is 100. So 5 sticks and 2 small boxes are colored in for this one. All right, this one's going to get a little trickier, only because we're going to try and represent, this next one represents the thousandths, but we're still using a hundredths grid. So for this one, we're going to shade 735 thousandths in the diagram. So we're going to start out similar to the last one. Let's represent it on our placement value chart. Obviously, we're going to have a 7 in the tenths place, and a 3 in the hundredths place, and a 5 in the thousandths place. So we could represent that 7, because it's 7 in the tenths place, so that means we would have to color in 7 of those sticks, like 7 of the columns, and then we'll color in 3 of the small squares to represent our 3 hundredths. Now it gets a little tricky because we need to represent 5 thousandths on a hundredths grid. So let's take a look at what we did, because when we colored in our hundredths, we colored in an entire box. For this point, we only want 5 thousandths. So what we really want to do is split that hundredth square in half, because what we would like to do is actually we're taking that 100 square and we're dividing it into 10 small pieces, and we're coloring 5 of those. So that's why I say we're coloring kind of half of 100. Okay, does that make sense? I'll say it again. We're taking that small square that we colored in 100, we're breaking it down into 10 small pieces, and we're coloring 5 of those small pieces. So in essence, we're coloring half of 100, if that makes sense. All right, this last diagram we got, this time we're coloring 658 thousandths. So it's a little tricky again, but we're going to break it down like we've been doing. 6 in the tenths place, 5 in the hundredths place, 8 in the thousandths place. So at this point, you know we should be coloring 6 columns, 6 sticks, and we're going to color in 500ths. So 5 of the small squares, we'll color those in. Now we need to represent 8 thousandths in this grid, and we'll do that by coloring in a majority of that. It's kind of hard to show. It's going to be tricky to show, but basically, like I said, you're taking one of those hundredths boxes, you're breaking it into 10 pieces, and you're coloring in 8 out of those 10 pieces. So just do your best with representing as close as you can. Represent 8 out of the 10 pieces, roughly coloring in like 80% of one of those little small squares. Okay. All right, y'all. This last thing I want us to do is this last word problem. And yeah, there are 1,000 students in Charlotte Elementary School. Read each example and record how to represent as a fraction, as a decimal in word form, and expanded notation. And since I haven't talked about any of this with you guys, I'm going to go over the first one with you, but you're going to do the last two. You're going to fill out the last two rows. Okay. The first thing we need to do, 9 out of 1,000 students have a parent who works at the school. So we want to represent that as a fraction. So 9 out of 1,000. So that would make our, it would be 9 on top and 1,000 on the bottom, because our fraction would be 9 out of 1,000. And we need to represent that in a decimal form. So now you need to be thinking like, okay, I have a 9, and that 9 is in the thousandths place. So you need to represent that decimal wise. So you have a 0 in the tens place, 0 in the hundreds place, and a 9 in the thousandths place. Now we need to represent that in word form. All that means is typing it out. 9,000. Type that out. And now we need to write it in the expanded form. Now the expanded form is like when I talked earlier about the placement value. The digit does not just equal whatever the digit is. The digit equals that times whatever it is in the placement value slot. So you're going to have a 9 times 1,000th. Okay?